The hospital corridors echoed with the faint sound of a child's laughter, innocent, fragile, and hauntingly familiar. Ethan Blake, the man everyone once feared as the ruthless millionaire CEO, froze mid. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not after everything he'd done. Not after walking away that night. Behind the glass window, he saw her, Clara, pale and weak, asleep on the hospital bed. But what stopped his heart wasn't her frail body. It was the little girl sitting beside her, drawing with crayons. "Daddy," the girl whispered softly, as if the word had been waiting years to escape. Ethan's chest tightened. He had never met this child before, yet her voice shattered every wall he'd built. The same brown eyes, the same stubborn chin. She looked just like him, and for the first time, Ethan Blake, the man who had everything, couldn't breathe. Ethan Blake had built an empire out of nothing but ambition and cold resolve. The world called him the Iron CEO, a man who never smiled, never faltered, never looked back. He was the kind of man who fired employees without hesitation, who closed deals with one raised brow, and who believed love was a distraction. But before the empire, before the ruthless name, there had been her, Clara Hayes. She was his calm in chaos, his laughter after board meetings, the only person who dared to challenge him when his world revolved around control. They had met in college. He, the scholarship student obsessed with success. She, the dreamer who believed that love could heal even the hardest heart. For a while, it did, until the night everything fell apart. Ethan remembered the fight like it had happened yesterday. Clara had stood in their small apartment, tears streaming down her face, holding a small envelope, a pregnancy test. "I'm pregnant," she'd whispered, her voice trembling. He hadn't said a word. His mind was racing, not with joy, but with fear. He had just closed his first $1 million deal, the first real step toward his empire. A child didn't fit into that plan. "Clara, I can't do this right now," he'd said coldly. "Not when everything is finally working." Her eyes had gone hollow, the sparkle fading. "It's our child, Ethan. You can't just walk away." But he had. That night, he left, choosing success over love, money over memories, and ambition over family. Years passed, the skyscrapers rose higher, his company expanded globally, and his name appeared on magazine covers. But inside, something had gone quiet, a part of him he never dared to face. He told himself Clara had moved on, that it was for the best. Then one rainy evening, his assistant rushed into his office. "Sir, there's been an accident. It's Clara Hayes. She's in the hospital." For the first time in years, Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He didn't ask questions. He didn't think. He just drove through red lights, through his past, through the silence he'd built around himself. When he reached the hospital, the smell of antiseptic hit him, sharp, sterile, suffocating. Doctors hurried down the halls, nurses whispered, monitors beeped behind closed doors. He stopped outside room 307. His hand trembled as he reached for the handle. Inside, Clara lay unconscious, her face pale, her hair messy against the pillow, her body frail under the white sheets. Ethan froze. For a moment, the man who ruled empires felt powerless. He took a slow step forward, his breath catching in his throat. "Clara," he whispered, then he heard it, a soft giggle. He turned, and his heart stopped. A small girl sat in the corner, coloring on a piece of paper. Her tiny hand moved carefully, tracing a heart shape. She looked up at him with wide brown eyes, the same color as his own. For a second, the world vanished. He took a step closer. "Hi there," the little girl blinked, studying him curiously. Then, as if she already knew, her lips curved into a small smile. "Daddy," she said softly. The word hit him harder than any loss, any failure, any pain he'd ever endured. Tears stung his eyes. He fell to his knees in front of her, unable to speak. What did you say?" She tilted her head. "Mommy says Daddy is busy saving the world, but I knew you'd come." Ethan's chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. He reached out slowly, afraid that if he moved too fast, she'd disappear, just like Clara once did. But she didn't. The little girl placed her small hand in his, her tiny fingers curling around his. Her warmth was real, her heartbeat was real, and in that moment, Ethan Blake, the man who thought he had everything, realized he had been living empty all along. He glanced at Clara again, lying still on the hospital bed. The monitors beeped softly, each sound a reminder of the years he had thrown away. He whispered, voice shaking, "I'm here now. Clara, I'm not leaving again." The girl looked up at him and whispered, "Mommy will wake up soon. She said you'd come when I said your name." Ethan blinked through his tears, holding her close as the truth finally sank in. He hadn't just found the love he lost. He had found the family he never knew he had. Ethan sat beside Clara's bed, his hands still trembling from the moment that had just changed his life. The little girl, his daughter, had fallen asleep in his lap, her small hand clutching his suit jacket like she'd known him forever. Every breath Clara took through the oxygen mask echoed in his ears. Every beep of the monitor was a reminder of how close he had come to losing her again. He couldn't look away from her, not after all those years pretending she didn't exist. A doctor entered quietly, checking her vitals. "She's stable," he said softly, "but she needs rest. You can stay if you'd like." Ethan only nodded, his throat too tight to speak. When the door closed, he finally allowed himself to whisper, "I should have been here, Clara. I should have never let you go." He brushed a loose strand of hair from her forehead, his fingers trembling. He remembered how she used to laugh when he did that, how she'd swat his hand away and say, "Don't mess up my hair before work." Now she was pale, motionless. The empire he'd built suddenly felt meaningless by morning. The sunlight slipped through the hospital blinds, spreading golden light across the room. Ethan's daughter stirred in his arms, her sleepy voice melting through the silence. "Daddy, is Mommy okay?" He swallowed hard. "She's going to be, sweetheart. I promise." "What's your name?" he asked softly. She smiled. "Lila." He froze again. That was the name Clara used to dream about. She'd once said, "If I ever have a girl, I'll name her Lila. It means night beauty, something bright born out of darkness." He whispered the name like a prayer. "Lila." The door opened. A nurse peeked in, holding a clipboard. "Mr. Blake, she's waking up." His heart nearly stopped. He stood up slowly, setting Lila gently on the chair beside him. His eyes locked on Clara's face as her fingers twitched, her lips parting slightly. Then, those familiar eyes opened. Tired, dazed, but still the same deep brown that used to hold all his storms. "Ethan." Her voice was soft, fragile, like a memory being reborn. He leaned forward, his voice shaking. "Yes, it's me. I'm here." She blinked, trying to sit up. What are you doing here?" "I heard about the accident," he said. "I couldn't stay away." A tear slipped down her cheek, not of joy, but of pain. "You left, Ethan. You made it clear that I wasn't part of your world." He bowed his head, shame burning through him. "I know. I was wrong. Every single day since that night, I've known it." Her gaze moved past him to the small figure sitting quietly with her doll. Lila smiled shyly. "Mommy, look who came." Clara froze. Ethan followed her eyes. Lila stood beside the bed now, her little hand resting on Clara's arm. "Mommy, Daddy's here." The words hit Clara like lightning. She turned to Ethan, tears flooding her eyes. She called you Daddy." He nodded, unable to speak. His throat was raw from holding back everything he had buried. Clara's voice broke. "You don't get to just walk back in, and I know." He interrupted softly, stepping closer. "You don't owe me forgiveness. But please, let me be here. Let me make it right." Her lips trembled. "You think showing up after years makes you a father?" He shook his head, his voice cracking. "No, but I want to learn how to be one." Silence filled the room, heavy, trembling, real. Lila climbed into Clara's lap, resting her head on her chest. "Mommy, don't cry. Daddy said he'll stay now." Clara closed her eyes, clutching her daughter tightly. "He said that before. Baby." Ethan's eyes glistened. "Clara, I didn't just lose you. I lost myself. I built everything I thought mattered, and none of it filled the space where you and Lila should have been." Her tears fell freely now. "You think words fix that?" He stepped forward, gently taking her hand. "No, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving it." The beeping monitor filled the silence again, steady, rhythmic, alive. Lila looked between them, then whispered, "Can we go home now?" Clara smiled weakly through tears. "Soon, baby, soon." Ethan swallowed hard. "Home," he repeated quietly. "If you'll let me, Clara, I'll build one with you. No more running. No more excuses." She looked at him for a long time, searching his eyes for the man she used to know, and for the first time in years, she saw a flicker of him, not the ruthless CEO, not the man who left, but the boy who once promised forever. "Ethan," she whispered. He reached up and gently wiped her tears. "I'm here." She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either. For now, that was enough. Days passed in the quiet hum of hospital machines and whispered promises. Ethan never left Clara's side. He'd sit through the nights, just watching her breathe, memorizing the rise and fall of her chest like a man terrified of losing her again. Clara was healing physically, but her heart, that was a different kind of wound. Every time she looked at him, she saw both the man who once loved her beyond words, and the man who had broken her beyond repair. "Why now, Ethan?" she asked one evening, her voice faint but steady. "Why come back after all these years?" He looked at her, his jaw tight with guilt. "Because I finally saw what I'd lost. The money, the boardrooms, the deals, none of it means anything without you, without her." He nodded toward Leela, who was drawing hearts and stick figures on a piece of paper. Sitting cross-legged on the hospital floor, she had drawn 3 people, a man, a woman, and a little girl holding hands under a yellow sun. "I used to think success was about never looking back," Ethan said. "But every step I took away from you was a mistake I carried like a shadow." Clara's eyes glistened. "You walked away when I needed you the most, Ethan, when I was scared, when I was pregnant, when I was alone. Do you know what that felt like?" He swallowed hard. "Every night, I've imagined it. And every night, I hated myself more." Tears spilled down her cheeks, silent but sharp. "You didn't just leave me, you left her." He looked at Lila again. "I know, and I can't undo that. But I can try to be the man she deserves." Clara turned her face away, but her voice trembled when she spoke again. "You don't get to just show up and fix everything with words, Ethan. Lila isn't some business deal you can negotiate." He smiled sadly. "I wouldn't dare. This time, I'm not here to win, I'm here to stay." The room fell silent again, filled only with the sound of Leela's humming as she colored. Then, she looked up, holding her drawing high. "Look, Mommy, look, Daddy, we're all together." Clara froze. The word daddy still hit her like a thunderclap, but when she saw Ethan's expression, the quiet awe, the tears he was trying not to let fall, something inside her cracked open. He reached out, carefully taking the paper from Leela's tiny hands. "It's beautiful," he said softly, "just like you." Leela grinned. "Mommy says when people love each other, they belong in one picture." Clara's voice broke. "Leela." Ethan looked at her again, voice trembling. "She's right. We belong in one picture." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out something small. A photograph, creased and faded from years of being carried everywhere. It was of him and Clara, from the day they'd signed the lease on their first tiny apartment. She was laughing, paint on her cheek, holding a roller in one hand and his arm in the other. "I kept this," he whispered, "even when I told myself I'd moved on." Her eyes softened, the pain was still there, but so was the memory of who they used to be. Leela tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Can Daddy come home with us?" Clara hesitated. Ethan stepped back, giving her space. "Only if Mommy says it's okay, sweetheart." The air between them was heavy, full of the words neither had the courage to say. Then, Clara took a slow, shaky breath. "Lila, why don't you show the nurse your drawing? I need to talk to Daddy for a second." Lila nodded and skipped away, clutching her masterpiece. Ethan's heart pounded as Clara looked up at him. "You broke me, Ethan," she whispered, "but watching you with her, I can't deny she needs you." He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "And you?" She blinked rapidly, fighting the tears. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again, but I know one thing, I don't want Lila growing up thinking love always ends in goodbye." He nodded, emotion tightening his voice. "Then let me prove that it doesn't." Clara studied him for a long moment, searching his eyes. She saw something different this time, not arrogance, not cold ambition, but raw, painful honesty. "Ethan," she said softly, "if you hurt her, if you hurt us again, I'll never forgive you." He exhaled shakily. "Then I'll make sure I never give you a reason to." A week later, Clara was discharged, her strength slowly returning. Outside the hospital, the sun poured gold over everything. Ethan carried her bag while Lila skipped between them. Humming at the car, Lila turned to him suddenly. "Daddy, hold Mommy's hand." Clara blushed. But Lila grabbed both their hands and linked them together. "Now we're a family," she said proudly. Ethan looked at Clara, and this time, she didn't pull away as they stood there. 3 souls who had lost everything, and somehow found their way back. The world felt right again. For the first time in years, Ethan smiled a real smile. "Let's go home," he whispered. Sometimes love doesn't end when we walk away, it waits quietly for the moment we're brave enough to return. Ethan learned that money can build empires but not mend hearts. And Clara discovered that forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it gives the future a chance to begin. If this story touched you, share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us true love never really dies. It just finds its way back home.